Pazza Inter is back. It was a crazy comeback against Torino. But Nicky, was it a good thing or a bad thing?
Pazza Inter never went away, Kay. Pazza Inter, despite best intentions from Antonio Conte, has been very much the identity of his time in charge too. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? It's a good thing to win. It's a bad thing to be 2-0 down again. The fact this keeps happening, the fact that it happens even when Torino are below full strength, when their manager isn't there, like is not great. It's certainly good and perhaps a reflection of what Conte wanted, that he has options to bring off the bench like Ivan Perisic and Raja Nainggolan, who helped change the game. It's glaring that Christian Eriksen, who sat on the bench, doesn't come off the bench, and that's something that I think a lot of us are going to wonder about. I had something that's really sort of been bugging me though with Inter, and which I have alluded to a bit in previous shows, but I looked at the numbers this week, and it's not, for all the talk about Lautaro and Lukaku up front, it's not the attack that's the problem. It is the number of goals they're conceding. They've conceded 13 goals so far this season. Out of the 20 teams in Serie A, only 9 have conceded more than that, and 8 of those are in the bottom half of the table. If you are trying to win the league, which Inter are, you cannot keep conceding this many goals. I don't care how good your attack is. Here's what's interesting about that figure, though. If you get into how many shots teams have had against them, only one team in all of Serie A has had fewer shots against it, than Inter. Do you want to guess who that team is?
Fewer shots against them?
Yeah, so who's giving up fewer shots than Inter? There's only one team in the whole division.
Hellas Verona.
No. Mina will be happy because I know she's crushing on his football. It's Fonseca's Roma, the only team that have conceded fewer shots against. So this is a striking statistic. They're conceding a lot of goals, but they're giving up very few shots, right? That is not normal. That's not a normal correlation. So is there an element to which they've been unlucky? Probably. The expected goals certainly say so. And it depends how much you want to trust those, but there is certainly the numbers on expected goals which suggest they're conceding far more than they should. I'm going to make a point that I know a lot of people are going to get angry at me for, because he's sort of been venerated for so long because he was a brilliant goalkeeper. I think Samir Handanovic has not played at the level of a top goalkeeper for more than a year now. And I think it's one of the several things. Shots aren't abstract. A lot of the shots they've given up have been great chances because of ridiculous mistakes by Kolarov or something else. But they used to be able to rely on one of the best keepers in Europe, and they can't anymore. That's my opinion.
Nicky, those stats are actually really interesting, and I think they tell part of the tale, right? But then you actually see interplay, and I think you can talk about expected goals, and maybe they have been a bit unlucky with the way that their opposition has been so clinical when they have had the few shots, and then you see them play, right? And you see the way that they carried out their game plan up until the second goal by Torino, and it was like they were in a coma. I mean, it was an unrecognizable team. Antonio Conte afterwards goes in the media and he says that they were missing fire and fury. You're the fire and fury manager. That's why you're there.
Super triggered by this comment.
No,
he said, I wanted to see the determination, fury, and fire that I saw last season. So far, we've lost a lot of that.
But that's why you go into teams. If there's something that you can say is a big positive about Antonio Conte's sides, is that they're ferocious, they press, they know how to defend, they know how to sit back, they're usually very good on the counter. But it's a team that, because of the way that he drills them behind the scenes, and I've heard from ex-players that his training sessions are notoriously brutal, and to the point that in the second half of the season, the players are tired, and that's why Antonio Conte's sides generally tend to kind of wean off a bit in the second half. But he is in there to bring that fire and fury. I'm expecting this Inter to kick the crap out of you and to really be, kind of like the bullies in dodgeball, where you see them and they look like the bad guys. That's the kind of team that Antonio Conte normally manages. So if you're not bringing the fire and fury, what are you bringing? Because you're not bringing the aesthetically pleasing football that some of the other managers that are doing really well in 2020 are bringing. So that's down to you, Conte. You've been there 15 months anymore. There's no more excuses. You're the one who has to bring the fire and fury. I know it's a congested calendar, but you have the depth now to be able to rotate. And we know that Conte struggled sometimes with his rotations, especially on a shorter game week. And he was complaining about this even last season about, we had 24 hours less rest than this team. this happens. There's a randomness to the calendar that sometimes teams will inevitably have a few hours less or more. And I'm sure there's other weeks that Inter had more rest than their opposition. So I'm just sick of the excuses. I'm sick of this fire and fury stuff. What are you bringing if you're not bringing the fire and fury? You're Antonio Conte. You are fury embodied in a human form. I'm about to destroy this microphone. Man, my blood pressure, it's pumping, guys.
Mina's delighted with this outcome.
I am so delighted because for the longest time, I feel like I'm the only person that just seems to just really get irritated, and not because of the drama, but because I'm like, what are you providing this team for 12 million? I'm not getting it. Like, what is it that you're doing that is so different to what Fonseca's doing, to what Gattuso's doing, to what Pioli's doing, that you're paid so much more? And I know that he has a name, and he's done a great job. But right now, I just look at this Inter side and, there is that whole like, oh, well, I'm glad, when they came back and they got their 2 goals. So I didn't watch this game live and I was getting absolutely mental. Unfortunately, it wasn't available to me live. And then I watched it afterwards. And those 2 goals didn't really come from, I don't even think it's fire and fury and that they just all of a sudden woke up from their days. I almost think they weren't even well laid out goals. They was almost like they just bullied their way into getting them. So the 4th goal is the only one that I can tell you was a nice goal. And so my issue again is the style of play can sometimes, when you are dealing with a manager who is sort of quite high maintenance, I think there comes a time when you are mentally exhausted or when you are always scared if you have a certain type of character. Like, for example, Jose Mourinho and Pepe at Real Madrid. Pepe is already an angry man, and to have somebody who's constantly sort of yelling at him just always left him at the edge. And I think there isn't a feeling of safety at the moment from Inter where they feel calm and relaxed. And if they do feel too calm and relaxed, they can't play Antonio Conte's style of football. I don't think they ever really woke up. They got 2 goals and then they fell asleep again, to be honest, because Torino had a great chance after that. Then Martinez comes on and does something special at the end, but I don't look at this team and say, yes, there are very interesting attacking patterns of play. Pirlo has that, for example. I don't see that coming from Antonio Conte. On top of it, there is a tactical imbalance that allows them to be at the moment defensively vulnerable. But one thing I feel sorry for him is Eriksen. I think that it's clear that Eriksen doesn't fit for him. So I'm a little bit like, stop asking him the question now as to why he's not playing Eriksen. It's clear he doesn't fit. He's given him chances. I cannot absolutely deny that he hasn't. He's really tried to incorporate Eriksen. He doesn't know how to. He simply doesn't know how to work with this type of player who's a little bit cold in the way that he plays his football and doesn't show great emotion. And I really would much prefer if people stop asking him about that.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.